Video 45, Threats to External Validity, Area 4 MCHES Subcompetencies 4.4.2. Review the learning objectives for this video. Welcome back. In the previous video, you explored internal validity, which asks whether the program actually caused the observed changes. Now you are going to tackle a question that is just as important. External validity asks whether the results of a study can be generalized to other populations, other settings, and other times. This is where your ability to think critically about real-world application really comes into play. Internal validity and external validity address different concerns, and here is something important for you to understand. They often exist in tension with each other. Studies with very high internal validity, such as tightly controlled laboratory experiments, may have low external validity because those controlled conditions do not reflect the real world. On the other hand, studies conducted in natural real-world settings may have higher external validity but lower internal validity because fewer variables are controlled. This tension is sometimes described as the difference between efficacy and effectiveness, and this distinction is going to help you a lot on the exam. An efficacy study tests whether an intervention works under ideal controlled conditions. It prioritizes internal validity. An effectiveness study tests whether an intervention works in the real world under typical conditions. It prioritizes external validity. For your certification exam, you need to understand both types of validity and recognize the trade-offs between them. Think about it this way. A program that works perfectly in a controlled university setting may not work when implemented in a rural community health center with fewer resources and different population characteristics. External validity asks you to consider these generalizability questions, and once you start thinking this way, you will see these trade-offs everywhere. Several factors affect external validity, and you will want to keep these in mind. The characteristics of the study sample must be representative of the broader population you want to generalize to. The setting must be similar to the settings where you want to apply the findings. The timing and context of the study must be considered as societal conditions change over time, and the specific way the intervention was delivered must be replicable in other contexts. Understanding these factors puts you in a strong position to evaluate any study you encounter. Now let us look at the specific threats to external validity that appear most frequently on the certification exam. These are concepts you are going to want to know well, and I think you will find them genuinely interesting once you see how they play out in real evaluation scenarios. The Hawthorne effect is perhaps the most well-known threat to external validity, and it is one of those ideas that sticks with you once you understand it. It refers to the phenomenon where participants change their behavior simply because they know they are being observed or studied, not because of the intervention itself. The name comes from a famous series of studies at the Hawthorne Works factory in the 1920s and 1930s, where workers' productivity increased regardless of what changes were made to working conditions. The workers improved simply because they felt special and knew they were being watched. In health education, the Hawthorne effect means that participants in a program evaluation might improve their health behaviors, not because the program content was effective, but because they know their behavior is being monitored. When the observation ends, the behavior changes may disappear. This threatens external validity because the results cannot be generalized to situations where people are not being observed. The novelty effect is another important one for you to recognize. It occurs when an intervention produces strong initial results that fade over time as the newness wears off. A new health app might generate high engagement in the first month because it is exciting and different, but usage declines as participants lose interest. Results measured during the novelty period may not generalize to long-term implementation. Selection treatment interaction occurs when the intervention works for the specific type of participants in the study but may not work for others. For example, a program tested with highly motivated volunteers may not produce the same results with a mandated audience. The results are valid for volunteers but cannot be generalized to non-volunteers. Setting treatment interaction occurs when results depend on specific characteristics of the study setting. A program that works in a well-resourced suburban hospital may not work in an under-resourced rural clinic. Pre-test sensitization occurs when taking a pre-test makes participants more aware of and responsive to the intervention content, producing larger effects than would occur without the pre-test. You are building a really solid understanding of these threats, and being able to identify them in scenarios is going to serve you well on exam day. Now that you understand the threats, let us talk about what you can actually do about them. Strengthening external validity requires deliberate design choices that prioritize real-world applicability, and these strategies are well worth knowing for both the exam and your professional practice. Using diverse and representative samples is the most direct strategy. The more your study sample resembles the broader population you want to generalize to, the stronger your external validity. This means including participants of different ages, races, socioeconomic backgrounds, education levels, and geographic locations. Conducting multi-site studies across different settings demonstrates that results are not limited to one particular environment. If a smoking cessation program produces positive results at urban clinics, suburban clinics, and rural clinics, the external validity is much stronger than if it was tested at only one site. Using unobtrusive measures, meaning measurement methods that participants are not aware of, reduces the Hawthorne effect. For example, tracking clinic utilization through electronic health records rather than asking participants to self-report their healthcare visits. When participants do not know they are being measured, their behavior is more likely to reflect natural patterns. Replication is one of the strongest ways to establish external validity, and this is a powerful concept for you to remember. When multiple independent studies using different samples in different settings produce consistent results, confidence in generalizability increases substantially. Assessing outcomes beyond the initial implementation period addresses the novelty effect. Following up with participants 6 months or a year after the program ends reveals whether initial improvements are sustained or fade over time. Using post-test only designs eliminates pre-test sensitization as a threat. If participants are never given a pre-test, they cannot be sensitized by it, and the results more accurately reflect what would happen in real-world implementation where pre-tests are not typically administered. On the exam, questions about external validity often ask you to identify why a successful program might not produce the same results in a different setting or with a different population. Always consider whether the sample, setting, or observation conditions limit the generalizability of the findings. You have now covered both internal and external validity, and that is a significant accomplishment. These concepts form the backbone of sound evaluation practice. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is C. The study was conducted with young, tech-savvy college volunteers in a university setting. Generalizing these results to elderly residents in a rural health department involves both a selection-treatment interaction, the intervention may work differently with a very different population, and a setting-treatment interaction, the university context differs dramatically from a rural health department. The population differences in age, technology familiarity, motivation, and health status are substantial. Option A is not supported because the study included randomization and a control group. Option B overstates the novelty effect, which may or may not apply. Option D overstates the Hawthorne effect, which does not invalidate all findings. Summarize the